He thought he could still hurt her, until the Mafia boss took off his rings.
The fluorescent lights of the mall food court buzzed overhead like trapped insects, casting harsh white glows across the sticky tables and the crowd that suddenly wasn't moving anymore. Serena Voss felt the world tilt the instant Travis's hand closed around her throat. His fingers were thick, calloused from years of construction work he never finished, and they squeezed just hard enough to make her vision sparkle at the edges. She tasted copper her own lip, where she'd bitten down to keep from crying out. Travis's face was inches from hers, eyes bloodshot, jaw working like he was chewing on every bitter word he'd saved up since the divorce papers landed on his kitchen counter 2 years ago. "You think you can just walk away?" he hissed, voice low so the family's eating fries and burgers wouldn't quite hear. "You think you can take my son and pretend I don't exist?" Noah 7 now, all skinny elbows and wide hazel eyes, stood frozen 2 steps behind her, clutching the paper bag that held the new sneakers she'd promised him for school. The bag crinkled when his small fingers tightened. "Mom?" His voice cracked, tiny and terrified. Serena didn't scream. Screaming would make it worse. She'd learned that the hard way years ago. Instead, she locked her gaze on Travis's and wrapped both hands around his wrist, not clawing, not panicking, just steady pressure. Her nails pressed half moons into his skin the way she'd practiced in the mirror every night after Noah went to bed. "Let go, sir," she said, each word carved out separately, calm even though her pulse roared in her ears. "You're doing this in front of him. Again." Travis's mouth twisted. "He needs to see what happens when you disrespect." A shadow fell across them, not dramatic, not loud, just sudden and complete, the way night swallows the last strip of daylight. Serena felt the change in the air before she saw the man. He was tall, broad through the shoulders, but not bulky, dressed in a charcoal overcoat that looked too expensive for a random Tuesday evening in a suburban mall. Dark hair swept back, sharp jaw, eyes the color of storm clouds over the ocean, Korean features carved with precision and something quietly lethal. He didn't shout. He didn't shove. He simply stepped into the circle of horrified onlookers, close enough that Serena could smell clean linen and a faint trace of cedarwood. Then, very slowly, he began removing the rings from his left hand. First, the heavy platinum band etched with a single stylized character she didn't recognize off, into the pocket of his coat with a soft metallic click. Second, a thinner silver ring with a matte black stone gone the same deliberate way. Third, a plain gold band worn smooth from years of wear slid free, held a moment between thumb and forefinger like he was saying goodbye to it, then tucked away. Each movement was measured, unhurried, almost ceremonial. The crowd felt it before they understood it. Phones that had been raised to record lowered. Silently. A teenage girl in a hoodie took one step back. An older man in a security vest hesitated mid-stride. Travis noticed too. His grip on Serena's throat loosened a fraction just enough for her to drag in a thin, burning breath. "Who the hell are you?" Travis snarled, but the bravado cracked at the edges. The man didn't answer right away. He finished with the last ring, a simple black onyx set in brushed titanium, then flexed his new bare hand once, knuckles popping softly. The scars across his knuckles were faint silver threads, old stories written in skin. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, calm, carrying the kind of authority that didn't need volume. "Someone who's asking you politely to take your hand off her." Serena's heart slammed against her ribs for an entirely new reason. Not fear this time. Something warmer. Something alive. Travis laughed, short and ugly. "You think you can scare me? I'll have security throw your ass out." The stranger tilted his head, just a fraction. "Security already knows I'm here." He didn't look away from Travis, but his next words were softer, meant for her. "Are you hurt?" Serena swallowed, throat raw. She shook her head, one small, controlled. Noah whimpered behind her, pressing his face into the back of her thigh. The man's gaze flicked to the boy, then back to Travis. Something dangerous moved behind those storm-gray eyes, quick as lightning, then gone. "Walk away," he told Travis. Not a suggestion, a fact. Travis's fingers, twitched. Serena felt the exact second his bravado collapsed into something smaller, meaner, more desperate. He shoved her back hard enough that she stumbled, catching herself against a table. Plastic trays clattered. A child at the next table started crying. Travis pointed at Noah. That's my kid. You're not keeping him from me." The stranger moved then fast, fluid, placing himself between Travis and them without ever seeming to hurry. One hand came up, open-palmed, not threatening, just there. "You don't touch either of them again," he said quietly. "Not today. Not ever." Serena pulled Noah into her arms, turning his face away from his father. Her own hands shook now, adrenaline finally crashing through the calm she'd forced herself to hold. The stranger glanced at her over his shoulder, just a heartbeat of eye contact. "Stay behind me," he murmured. And for reasons she couldn't name yet, she did. Serena pressed her back against the cold metal edge of a high-top table, Noah's face buried in the crook of her neck. His heartbeat fluttered against her collarbone like a trapped bird. She could feel every tremor in his small frame, and it cut deeper than Travis's grip ever had. The strangerman, she decided she would call him until he told her otherwise, stood exactly where Hugh planted himself. Between them and Travis, feet shoulder-width apart, hands loose at his sides, no fists, no posturing, just presence, the kind that made the air feel thicker. Travis took one step forward, chest puffed, trying to reclaim the space he thought belonged to him. "You heard me, asshole. That's my kid. Step aside before I make you." Min didn't flinch, didn't even blink. Instead, he spoke again, same low register, same calm that somehow carried farther than any shout could. "You already made your choice the moment you put your hand on her. You don't get to make another one tonight." Travis's laugh came out jagged. Big talk for a guy who just took off his jewelry like he's about to do yoga. A few people in the crowd tittered nervously, then stopped when Min tilted his head, just enough for the overhead light to catch the faint scar that ran along his left cheekbone, thin and silver, like someone had once tried to carve his smile wider and failed. "I removed them," Min said evenly, "so I don't leave permanent marks when I stop you from touching her again." The words landed soft, too soft, and that made them heavier. Travis's bravado flickered. He glanced around, suddenly aware of the phones still raised, the security guards now hovering at the edges of the food court instead of charging in. One of them, a stocky man with a radio clipped to his belt, met Min's eyes for half a second and gave the tiniest nod. Serena caught it, her stomach twisted. Whoever this man was, he wasn't just some stranger playing hero. He was known here. Travis must have felt the shift too. His hand flexed, then dropped to his side. "This isn't over," he spat at Serena. "You can't keep him from me, sir. Forever. Courts see through women like you." She lifted her chin, voice raw but steady. "The courts already saw through you, Travis. That's why the restraining order has your name on it. That's why Noah hasn't spent a night under your roof in 2 years. Noah whimpered again. Serena stroked his hair, never taking her eyes off her ex. "Go home, sleep it off, and stay away from us." Travis opened his mouth, then closed it when Min took one measured step closer. Not aggressive, just closing the distance enough that Travis had to tilt his head back to hold eye contact. "You have 10 seconds, Min said quietly, "to turn around and leave this building under your own power. After that, my friends escort you, and they aren't as polite as I am." Travis's gaze darted to the 2 men now standing casually near the escalator's dark jackets, earpieces, expressions blank. One of them cracked his knuckles once, almost lazily. Travis's shoulders slumped the way they always did when reality finally punched through the whiskey haze. He pointed one last trembling finger at Serena. "This isn't finished." Then he turned and stalked toward the exit, shoving past a family with a stroller. The crowd parted for him like water around oil. The moment he disappeared around the corner, the food court exhaled. Conversations restarted in hushed bursts. Someone clapped, then stopped when no one joined in. Serena's legs finally gave. She sank onto the nearest bench, pulling Noah fully into her lap. He wrapped her, both arms around her neck so tight she could barely breathe, but she didn't mind. She pressed her lips to the top of his head and whispered, "It's okay, baby. He's gone. We're safe." Min stayed where he was for a long beat, watching the exit, making sure Travis didn't double back before he finally turned. When he looked at her, the storm in his eyes had quieted. What remained was something softer, almost careful. He crouched slowly so he was level with them both. "May I?" he asked, gesturing toward the empty space on the bench beside her. Serena nodded, throat too tight to speak. He sat close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his coat, far enough that she didn't feel crowded. He rested his elbows on his knees, hands clasped loosely, bare knuckles still faintly red from where the rings had pressed all day. Noah peeked out from her shoulder, studying the stranger with wide, curious eyes. Min noticed. A small, genuine smile touched the corner of his mouth, the first real one she'd seen. "Hey, kiddo," he said gently. "You did good staying close to your mom. That's exactly what brave looks like." Noah blinked. Then, in a tiny voice, "Are you a superhero?" Min chuckled low, warm, surprised. "No, just someone who doesn't like bullies." He glanced at Serena. "My name is Minho. Most people call me Min." "Serena," she managed. "And this is Noah." Min inclined his head, formal but kind. "Serena. Noah. It's good to meet you both." He reached into his coat pocket and, pulled out the small black onyx ring he'd removed last. He held it between thumb and forefinger, turning it once in the light. "I don't usually take these off," he said quietly. "They remind me who I am, and who I don't want to be anymore." He offered it to her, palm open, but tonight they were in the way. "Keep it if you want, or throw it in the fountain outside. Your choice." Serena stared at the ring symbol, heavy, still warm from his skin. She didn't take it, not yet. Instead, she met his eyes and asked the only question that mattered right then. "Why did you step in?" Min didn't look away. "Because I've seen that look on a woman's face before," he said simply. "On my mother's. I was too young to stop it then. I'm not too young anymore." The words landed like quiet thunder. Serena felt something crack open inside her chest, not pain, not fear, but the first fragile breath of something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Safety. And maybe, just maybe, the tiniest spark of something more. The mall's background. Noise crept back in slowly, like someone turning up the volume on a forgotten radio. Conversations restarted in fragments. A toddler wailed somewhere near the soft pretzel stand. The escalators hummed, but around their little bench, the world still felt hushed, cocooned. Serena kept one arm wrapped around Noah, the other resting lightly on his back in slow, steady circles, the same rhythm she'd used since he was a baby, colicky with teething pain. His breathing had, evened out, but every few seconds he lifted his head, just enough to peek at Min, then ducked back down again, as if testing whether the tall stranger was still safe. Min stayed seated beside them, elbows on his knees, hands loosely clasped. He didn't crowd, didn't hover, he simply existed there, solid, quiet, present like a lighthouse in fog. After a long minute, Noah's small voice broke the silence. "Your hands look strong." Min glanced down at his own knuckles, surprised. The faint silver scars caught the light. He flexed his fingers once, slow and thoughtful. "They've had to be," he said gently. "But strong isn't always about hitting. Sometimes it's about knowing when not to." Noah considered that, chewing his bottom lip the way Serena did when she was thinking hard. "Daddy hits when he's mad." The words landed like stones in still water. Serena's breath caught. She hadn't known Noah remembered the sounds more than the bruises had, hoped the therapy and the time apart had softened those memories into something distant. Min's jaw tightened for half a heartbeat, barely noticeable, unless you were watching closely. Then his expression softened again. He leaned forward just a fraction, eye level with the boy. "I'm sorry that happened to you and your mom," he said, voice low and serious, the way adults speak when they mean every word. "No one should ever have to be afraid in their own home. Or anywhere." He paused. "You did really good tonight, Noah. You stayed close. You didn't, run. That takes a lot of courage." Noah blinked fast, eyes shiny. "I wanted to help her." "You did," Min told him. "You helped by being right there. Sometimes the bravest thing is just not leaving someone alone." Serena felt her throat close. She pressed her lips together hard, blinking against the sudden heat behind her eyes. She had spent so long being the shield of Rye court date, every late-night reassurance, every whispered promise that things would get better, that hearing someone else see her son's quiet bravery undid something inside her. She cleared her throat softly. "We should probably get out of here before security starts asking questions." Min nodded once. "They won't. Not tonight." He stood smoothly, offering his hand not to pull her up, but simply there if she wanted it. Serena hesitated only a second, then she took it. His palm was warm, steady, the calluses faint but real. The contact sent a small, unexpected current up her arm, not electric in a dramatic way, just grounding, like stepping onto solid ground after too long at sea. Noah slid off her lap and took Min's other hand without asking. The three of them started walking slow, unhurried toward the quieter wing of the mall, where the lighting dimmed and the stores gave way to wide windows overlooking the parking lot. As they passed a small indoor fountain, Min spoke again, quieter now. I don't usually do this step-in like that. My life, it's complicated. People expect certain things from me. He glanced, sideways at her. But seeing him grab Yuette wasn't a choice. It was instinct. Serena studied his profile, the sharp line of his jaw, the way his eyes scanned the space ahead out of habit. Instinct from experience? He gave a small, rueful nod. My mother raised me and my sister alone after my father decided we weren't worth the effort. She worked 3 jobs, came home with bruises she tried to hide with long sleeves. I was 12 the first time I stood between them, too small to do much damage, but old enough to make him think twice. He exhaled through his nose. After that, things changed. Not because I was strong, because I refused to look away. Serena stopped walking. The fountain's soft trickle filled the pause. I left Travis when Noah was 4, she said quietly. One night he came home drunk and threw a lamp at the wall because dinner was 5 minutes late. Shards everywhere. Noah was asleep on the couch. I picked him up, grabbed the go bag I'd hidden under the bed, and walked out. Never looked back. She swallowed. I thought I was done being afraid. Turns out fear doesn't always leave when you do. Min turned to face her fully. His eyes searched hers, not pitying, not judging, just listening. You're not afraid right now, he said. It wasn't a question. She let out a shaky laugh. No, not right now. Noah tugged on Min's hand. Can we get ice cream? The innocence of it broke the moment open like sunlight through clouds. Serena smiled real, small, tired, but, genuine. Min looked down at the boy, then back at her, one eyebrow raised in silent question. Yeah, she said. Ice cream sounds perfect. They turned toward the little stand near the exit, bright neon sign, glass case full of colors. Min paid without fanfare, ordering a chocolate cone for Noah, vanilla for Serena, and nothing for himself. When he handed her the cone, their fingers brushed again. This time she didn't pull away quite so fast. As Noah licked chocolate off his wrist and grinned up at them both, Serena felt something shift, small, fragile, but real. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like something to survive. It felt like something she might actually want to walk toward. The ice cream stand was tucked into a quieter corner near the mall's glass exit doors, its pink and mint striped awning glowing softly under string lights. Noah sat on the edge of a low planter box, legs swinging, chocolate already smeared across his chin like war paint. He licked the cone with fierce concentration, occasionally glancing up at Min and Serena, as if checking they were still there, like he needed visual proof the bad moment had really passed. Serena stood beside the planter, one hip leaning against the concrete rim, vanilla melting slowly down her fingers. She didn't mind the stickiness. It felt normal, human. After everything, normal was a gift. Min stood a respectful step away, hands in his coat pockets, watching Noah with a quiet smile that softened the sharp edges of his face. Every few seconds his gaze flicked toward the main corridor-old habit, scanning for threats even when none were coming. But when he looked back at them, the tension eased. You don't eat ice cream? Serena asked, tilting her head toward his empty hands. He gave a small shrug. Never developed the taste. Too sweet. My sister used to tease me about it, said I was born frowning at sugar. A faint laugh escaped him, low and surprised, like he hadn't expected to share that. She'd drag me to every new dessert place in the city anyway, forced me to try one bite. Every time. Serena smiled, small, real. Sounds like a good sister. She is. He paused, eyes on the melting swirl of Noah's cone. She's the reason I learned how to take the rings off without breaking anything important. Serena's fingers tightened around the napkin-wrapped cone. She understood what he wasn't quite saying. The rings weren't just jewelry. They were symbols of power, of promises made in darker rooms, of a life where control was currency. Removing them tonight hadn't been casual. It had been deliberate, vulnerable. She licked a drip from her thumb, buying a second to gather her thoughts. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. Step in, stay, any of it. Min met her eyes. I know, then why? He exhaled slowly through his nose, the sound almost a sigh. Because the second I saw his hand on your throat, I saw my mother's face instead. Same look, trying to stay calm so the kid wouldn't, break. I was too late back then. I couldn't stop it. But tonight, he lifted one shoulder. Tonight I could, and I wanted to. Not for credit, not for anything except that you and he nodded toward Noah should never have to wonder if someone will show up when it matters. Noah finished his cone in one last big bite, chocolate now ringing his mouth like lipstick. He wiped his face with the back of his sleeve. Classic 7-year-old move-on, hopped down from the planter. Without hesitation, he walked straight to Min and wrapped both sticky arms around the man's leg in a fierce, clumsy hug. Min froze for half a heartbeat, clearly not used to small humans attaching themselves without warning. Then his hand came down gently, resting on the back of Noah's head. He ruffled the boy's dark hair once, careful, like he was handling something fragile and irreplaceable. Thanks for the ice cream, Noah mumbled into Min's pant leg, and for making Daddy go away. Min crouched so they were eye to eye again. You're welcome, kiddo. Any time. Noah beamed pure, gap-toothed sunshine, then darted back to Serena, grabbing her free hand. Mom, can he come to our house sometime? He can see my Lego castle. It has a dragon. Serena's laugh caught in her throat, surprised, warm, a little shaky. We'll see, baby. She looked at Min over Noah's head. He was standing again, expression unreadable for a moment, then softening into something almost shy. I'd like that, he said simply. If it's okay with, you. The words hung between them, simple, but heavy with possibility. Not a promise, not pressure, just an open door. Serena felt the last of the adrenaline drain away, leaving quiet warmth in its place. Her throat still ached faintly where Travis's fingers had been, but the pain felt distant now, like a bruise already fading. She looked at her son, sticky, safe, smiling, and at the man who had turned a nightmare into something almost ordinary again. Okay, she said softly. We'll see. Outside the glass doors, the parking lot lights painted long gold stripes across the asphalt. The night air smelled of rain that hadn't fallen yet, and distant exhaust. Min walked them to her car, a sensible silver SUV with a tiny dent in the bumper from last winter's ice. He opened the back door for Noah without being asked. The boy climbed in, buckling himself with exaggerated care, then waved like he was on a parade float. Serena paused at the driver's door, keys in hand. She turned to Min. I don't know what comes next, she admitted, but tonight, thank you for all of it. He stepped closer, just one step, so the space between them felt intimate without being crowded. You don't owe me thanks. Just promise me one thing. She raised an eyebrow. If he ever comes near you again, call me. He pulled a simple black card from his inside pocket. No name, no title, just a number embossed in silver. Day or night, doesn't matter. She took the card. Their fingers brushed longer this time. Neither, sir. Pulled away immediately. I will, she said. He nodded once. Then he stepped back, hands returning to his pockets, giving her room to breathe, to leave, to decide. Serena slid behind the wheel. Noah was already chattering about the Lego dragon he wanted to show Min. She started the engine, the low hum steadying her heartbeat. As she pulled out of the spot, she glanced in the rearview mirror. Min stood under the parking lot light stall, still, watching until her taillights disappeared around the corner. She slipped the black card into the center console, right beside the single onyx ring he'd left with her earlier. Neither of them had said goodbye. Because neither of them had said goodbye. Because neither of them felt like the night was over. The drive home felt shorter than it should have. Streetlights slid across the windshield in long golden streaks, turning the inside of the car into a quiet moving lantern. Noah had fallen asleep in his booster seat before they even left the mall parking lot, head lolled against the window, mouth slightly open, one small hand still curled around the crumpled napkin from his ice cream. Serena kept glancing at him in the rearview mirror, counting his slow, even breaths the way she always did after a bad night. The black card Min had given her sat on the passenger seat beside the onyx ring. She hadn't put either away yet. Every few minutes her eyes drifted to them, as if they might disappear if she looked away too long. She pulled into the driveway of their small 2-bedroom house on the quiet cul-de-sac. The porch light was already on a timer she'd set years ago, so the house never felt completely dark when they came home late. She killed the engine and sat there for a moment, listening to the tick of the cooling motor and the soft snuffle of Noah's breathing. The night replayed behind her eyes in slow motion. Travis's hand, the crowd that didn't move, Min's deliberate fingers sliding off each ring, the way he'd placed himself between them without hesitation, and then the softer things, the way he'd crouched to Noah's level, the gentle ruffle of hair, the quiet offer of ice cream, the card he'd slipped her like it was the most natural thing in the world. She touched the faint marks on her throat. They still ached, but the sting had dulled to a dull warmth. Proof that tonight had happened, proof that she hadn't been alone when it did. Carefully she unbuckled Noah and carried him inside, his head heavy on her shoulder, legs dangling. She laid him in his bed surrounded by Lego bricks and the half-built dragon castle he'd been so proud to mention, and pulled the blanket up to his chin. She kissed his forehead, lingering there, breathing him in. "Thank you for being brave tonight," she whispered. "I love you more than the moon and all the stars." He didn't stir, but his little hand twitched once, as if reaching for hers even in sleep. Serena left his door cracked and walked back to the living room. The house was quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator, and the distant bark of a neighbor's dog. She sank onto the couch, still wearing her coat, and pulled the black card from her pocket. No name, no logo, just the silver embossed number and, in tiny font beneath it, 2 words, "Any hour." She turned the onyx ring between her fingers next. It was heavier than it looked cool now, but still carrying the faint memory of his warmth. She slipped it onto her right index finger. It fit loosely, but she didn't mind. It wasn't about the size. It was about the choice. Her phone buzzed once on the coffee table. Unknown number. She answered without hesitation. "Serena?" Min's voice came through low. Careful, the same calm that had cut through the mall chaos earlier. "I just wanted to make sure you got home safely." She smiled into the dark room, small and private. "We did. Noah's already asleep. He was out before we hit the highway." A soft exhale on his end relief, maybe even a touch of amusement. Good. He earned that rest. Silence stretched between them, comfortable, not empty. "I meant what I said," he continued after a moment. "If anything feels off, if Travis shows up, if you see his car, if you just need someone to talk to, use the number. No explanation required." "I know," she said quietly. "And thank you, again, for seeing us, for staying. You don't have to thank me for doing the right thing." His voice softened further. "But if you ever want to talk about tonight, about anything, I'd like that. No pressure, just an open door, sir." Serena leaned her head back against the couch cushion, eyes on the ceiling fan spinning slow circles. "I'd like that too." Another quiet beat. "Then maybe coffee sometime," he said. "You, me, Noah, if he wants to come. I know a place with terrible coffee, but the best chocolate, croissants in the city. He might forgive me for not eating ice cream if I bribe him with pastry." She laughed soft, surprised, the sound filling the empty room like light. "He'd probably demand a dragon-shaped one." "I'll find one," Min promised, and she could hear the smile in his voice. They didn't say goodbye right away. They just stayed on the line, breathing together, the connection humming softly between them. When she finally ended the call, the house didn't feel quite so quiet anymore. Serena stood, slipped the phone into her pocket, and walked to the front window. She looked out at the empty street, the porch light painting a warm circle on the driveway. Somewhere out there, Min was driving home too, maybe thinking about her the way she was thinking about him. She touched the onyx ring one last time, then turned off the living room light. Tomorrow would come. There would be school drop-offs, client emails, therapy appointments, the 1,000 small acts of rebuilding a life. But tonight, for the first time in years, the future didn't feel like a shadow to outrun. It felt like a path she might walk with someone beside her, someone steady, someone who knew when to remove the rings and when to keep them on. Someone who had already chosen to show up, and that, Serena thought, as she climbed the stairs to her own bed, was more than enough to sleep on. If Min's quiet strength and Serena's unbreakable courage moved you tonight, if you believe the right person can step into your hardest moment and change everything, then please hit that like button to let the algorithm know this story matters. Drop A in the comments if you want more tales of protection, healing, and love that grows slowly and stays forever. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Cinematic Mafia Love. We're here, telling the stories that remind us. Sometimes the strongest shield isn't made of steel. It's made of someone who chooses to stand with you, rings off or on. Thank you for being here with us. See you in the next one.